You're someone with a vision for your practice, for your side hustle, and for your personal journey. But when it comes to establishing your path on how to get to where you want to be with your practice, things get a little messy. You're also someone who'd prefer to go in person instead of to groups and listening to everyone else's story. To me, it sounds like you could benefit from one-on-one consulting with our experienced practice of the practice consultants. From $5.95 a month and up, you can work with a consultant that will give you more direction and practical tried and tested tips matched to you and your goals. For more information, visit practiceofthepractice.com/apply. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/apply. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1301. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. This is a show that, honestly, it started with me wanting to be able to just learn how to grow my group practice. I had started this counseling practice on the side to pay off student loan debt. It was called Mental Wellness Counseling. It's still going today. Nicole Ball, one of my clinicians, bought it from me and now has expanded it to 4 locations, multi-million-dollar practice. But to have been able to be a part of that at the beginning, it really started with, I had some student loan debt and I wanted to pay it off quickly. And I figured if I just do 4 to 5 sessions a week after my full-time job, that's going to help me be able to grow it. And then I had an intern that then turned into someone I was supervising for their pre-license. And he said, "Hey, can I work for you?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I kind of became an accidental group practice owner. Then I had another intern do it, another intern. And next thing you know, I realized I was making more money off of this group practice than I was off of my full-time job. Now, when I look back on that, there's so many things that I would do differently now. I think the market has changed. I think the IRS has changed. Just the way people think about jobs versus just, being a 1099 and security. So much has changed, which is why I'm so excited to have Dr. Brandon Shurn, who is with us today. He is our resident expert when it comes to group practices. He's one of our consultants. He leads our group practice launch track within the Practice Academy, has his own practice, and I'm sure there's a laundry list of other things you've done in the world, Brandon, that I just haven't mentioned. What are 2 or 3 things that I didn't mention that maybe I don't even know about you?
I am the current director at large for the American Mental Health Counselors Association, and I'm also a supervisor. So I provide supervision to mental health counselors that are pre-licensed in the state of Maryland.
Man, what don't you do? That's amazing. Well, I want to just dive into, you took over the podcast. What I love is that with the Grow Group Practice podcast, we've had a number of different hosts within that. We had LaToya for a while. We had Allison for a while. We had Andrew for a while. And then now you've taken this over. What have you found interesting about taking over that podcast?
The most interesting piece for me was the accountability. When I stepped in, because in the back of my mind, I had always wanted to do a podcast. And then I would struggle with the concept or kind of get in the framework of things. And then when the opportunity arose, I learned that I really like podcasting. I really like putting out content, things that I believe are important and beneficial to those that listen. And so for me, that was the thing. Because, sometimes people be like, "Oh, I want to get into podcasting because that's kind of the it thing to do now."
Yeah.
And initially I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this. I have something to say. And then this opportunity presented itself and I said, yeah, I really like doing it. And so, yeah, I would say that's the biggest part, in addition to being able to meet cool people and talk to them.
Yeah. Well, in the coming weeks, we're going to be playing some of those episodes that Brandon has handpicked for you, the listeners. So you'll hear some of the Brandon kind of podcasts coming through in the next couple of weeks. So we'll hear some of those. Brandon, what for you personally, being a group practice owner, what have you learned? That's what I love about podcasting, is that I get to learn as a person, as a consultant, as a business owner. I get to selfishly ask people questions all the time that help me in my business. What have you learned that maybe you didn't have as much insight on through being a podcast host?
So one of the biggest ones is the ability for like being able to outsource things. So like understanding that Google Ads, so to speak, as a way of marketing. Well, there's limitations if you have your website on certain platforms because of the restrictions. And I didn't know that until interviewing a person that does this for a living. And actually, so I was going to start with him, and then he was like, yeah, your website is built on the wrong platform. So now I'm in the process of transitioning that to make it easier. And just as an extension of that, learning that SEO gets affected by all of that. So yeah, so Google Ads and the ability for you to have creative freedom over your website is important.
Yeah. What are some of those platforms that are preferable, like that you learned your website should be on?
Top of the list is WordPress, and then Squarespace, and to a lesser extent Wix. Now this is from the person that I interviewed on a podcast, but top of his list is WordPress because it allows so much functionality, and the widgets or the whatever the apps that he's developed to be able to track conversions and do that effectively, it works better on either a WordPress site or a Squarespace site.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we hear over and over here too. So it's always good when we're hearing the same thing. If you were like, don't have WordPress, I'd be like, wait, what? So that'd be a different conversation. What about management or even just thinking through growth of your group practice? What have you learned through the podcast in that area?
Intentionality, and being mindful about the growth. So just every person that I've interviewed that has a group practice talked about in some form or fashion being intentional about the growth and how you grow, as well as it really, and I knew this, but it just reinforced it, of being okay with niching. One of the interviews that come to mind is around the concept of medical trauma, and how medical trauma in and of itself is not in the DSM. You don't have an F code for that. And this person has a robust practice just focused on medical trauma. And so it's possible to build a group practice. All of the clinicians that work for her, or I guess work with her, I think they're 1099 still, work with medical trauma. And so it was like, okay, yeah, niching is okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been documenting. I'm on week 4 at the time of this recording, but I think only week 2 has played on the podcast of launching Great Lakes Online Counseling. So starting a counseling practice completely from scratch. And it's interesting to go back through that process of thinking through like, oh, like I don't want to niche in, but I'm like, I teach this all the time. And so I really had to think through like, what is our specialty? What aligns with kind of me? And really the focus that we're having on it is for people that are divorced and that are raising kids and trying to figure that out, maybe primary parents, and just having that kind of post-divorce life be a lot of what we focus on. And so right now, Session Sites is building out that website for us. I filed the LLC yesterday, and it's just so interesting to go back into that world of, okay, I'm going to build this practice on just 2 hours a week and see what I can create in 5 years. So it's an interesting public experiment.
Yeah. And you know what? Just in you saying that, like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm building it 2 hours at a time. Like, it's not this, I need to do everything right now. It's, I'm building it out and I'm seeing what works and I'm seeing what doesn't work. And so, yeah, I love that. And that's some of the same stuff that the podcast guests are resonating with, and I resonate with as well.
What are some things now? You do a ton of consulting through Practice the Practice one-on-one, but then you're also leading our group practice launch program, our track 2 within that. Maybe let's start with, what are things that most people going from solo into group, what do they get wrong?
Not being intentional. That I would say when there's a rush to do, and again, not having an ideal client, not having a brand, all of those things, it messes with the marketing and the ability to message in a succinct manner, right? So that's the one thing that I see. So I'm thinking about some people that I was just on a webinar with earlier. Now they're in solo practice, but they have group aspirations, and some of them was like, I don't know if I want. I work with everyone. I'm like, please get clear so that you can speak, because that is part of the brand. And so not being intentional and thinking that it's going to happen overnight as some of the more prominent kind of shortcomings that I see.
Are you seeing any trends around 1099s and W-2s?
I'm seeing a movement away from 1099s. I'm seeing a movement more towards W-2s because of the ability to offer different things. Like when anybody talks to me about, they're in this space, and I think one of the things that I've been doing is helping people understand that there's a way to do W-2 that is not going to drain your bank account. And sometimes people think erroneously that if I bring a person on as a W-2, then it means that I have to give them all these benefits and PTO, and I'm not in a place to do that, and I have to guarantee them a salary and all of those things. And so when we sift through that, and then I give them a little bit of, no, there's a way to do it, and this is the way to do it. This is one way to do it. It's kind of having a fee for service model. It's similar to 1099, but all of the pressure is off of the employee. And again, it's being intentional. So when I launched and I brought my clinician on, everybody that I was interviewing, I was intentional about the fact that this position at this point in time is not for someone that needs to have a full caseload, right? Because it takes time. It takes time to market. It takes time to get a buzz around you as a clinician. So.
Now,
but there's a movement away from it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think also the IRS side, I think, is part of why we're seeing that movement. I think also just the kind of people that want a job are different in mindset than the 1099s. When you have a 1099, they're sort of like, maybe I want to have my own private practice, maybe I don't. And then you spend all this time launching them only to have them leave. Whereas when they're a W-2, I think you tend to attract people that they just want a job, they want to come do the work, and they don't want to think about it when they're outside of there. What are you seeing in regards to like percentage-based models versus fixed-rate models? In regards to, are people that you're talking to doing more of a fee split, or are they doing more of a just like set flat rate or a salary?
They're kind of doing both. They're experimenting and exploring. I'm thinking about one client that I was talking to a couple of days ago at the time of this recording, and we were really trying to suss out what would be the best way of going about. But it's one of the things that I tell people is you got to know the market, know what is happening in your specific space. So in Maryland, I have a greater grasp on what it is and, what's the average going rate for a therapist, depending upon their level of experience as well as their degrees and the specialized training. And so all of that comes into play. And if you're going to be strategic, I'll say target people that are provisionally licensed that you can provide supervision to. It's a W-2. It makes it more attractive. Supervision is baked into the cake, as well as all these other things. There's kind of a flat fee in Maryland that happens. And most of the percentages I see are 1099s.
Yeah, I think we're also seeing that when it's a flat fee, even if the insurance rates are fluctuating, you tend to retain people better. And then also, as soon as you can get people up to that part-time salaried position where they're averaging 15 sessions a week or so, and then you give them 5 non-clinical hours, so based on a 20-hour week, where you can just give them a flat salary. Then if there's ups and downs, that's on the owner, that's on the marketing team. It's not on the individual. I mean, they're not experts in marketing, and so why should they get a financial hit just because the owner's not doing a good job with getting clients? And so I think it also then kind of perpetuates that whole, like, you're an employee. Like when I worked in a nonprofit, I was paid whether or not there was a bunch of foster care kids or not. I was a foster care supervisor. When the numbers were down, I still got paid. It wasn't like Joe hit the streets, find foster kids to come join, it's like, and so I think you're going to attract those people that are going to stay and have that W-2 model thought. So what are you seeing in the world of marketing a group practice right now?
I'm seeing that it's taken a lot of time, and it goes back to the website as well, of knowing what your website capabilities are. If you don't have the ability to put plugins in, because of either it's like a template base or whatever, it messes with the ability to market. I'm thinking about even on my own, personally, I was attempting to run a campaign and something happened. I was getting visibility, but I wasn't getting any clicks. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. But so then I say, okay, well, let me go this route and let me go this way. I love like the A/B model, testing things out and seeing what's going to happen, what's being lucrative, what's not being lucrative. And I would say that trend is happening more. I can see, I'm seeing
go
a
into what the
resurgence.
A/B model is for people that maybe haven't heard of
Okay.
that.
So it's like taking, if you want to post or you want to do some reels or some shorts or videos, and you take Instagram and you have a marketing campaign there with a budget, and then you have maybe Google and you have a marketing budget there, and you see which one is getting traction to your website, which one is converting, and maybe you do it for a month or 2 months to see what the conversion rates are, the return on investment is, and that helps you determine which way is most lucrative. And the other appealing piece for me that I've been finding interesting is that those things fluctuate, right? Because some, people fluctuate in the ways that they find information. We also know that AI is coming on board, and so that's another thing that people want to be considerate of and mindful of. Is how am I using this? I was just one of my consulting clients yesterday. I was talking to her about understanding website and how to use. There's terms that's answer engine optimization and GEO, and that's generative engine optimization. And what it does is, so you can run this through any type of AI platform, take your website link and say, check this for SEO, AEO, GEO, and it'll give you a feedback on things that you can be doing that will improve your SEO rating. You don't have to do all of it, but it just gives you some comprehensive information, and it takes away I'm moored to this outcome, right? So you're like, oh, I need to be doing this. Even like the types of headings that you have on your website affects the way that you show up. And I didn't know that until I got some feedback from my particular AI. I use Copilot and found it helpful. And so in a consulting session, I did it. I said, I'm gonna send these to you. And she was like, yes, that's awesome.
That's great. I want to thank Headway for sponsoring this episode. If you run a group practice, you know that accepting insurance can be overwhelming. Between credentialing, billing, and payroll, the admin side can easily take over your week. Headway was built to help you handle this, and they're the only platform designed specifically for in-network group practices. Whether you're growing your team or running an established practice, Headway makes the business side easier with faster credentialing, higher per-session rates, and bi-weekly payments your team can count on. They work with therapy, psychiatric, and hybrid group practices. There are no subscription fees, just the support you need to run your practice with ease. Run your best group practice with Headway, trusted by thousands of group practice leaders to simplify insurance admin and reach more people through in-network care. Curious how Headway can work for you? Head to join.headway.co/Joe. That's join.headway.co/Joe to learn more. Do you ever feel like there's just so many things to keep up with that it's like, man, why can't we just be on cruise control?
Yeah, it is. It's always in flux. And that's one of the things that I love about the profession is there's always something new going on that, you can't get on cruise control. And then I do be like, man, I just wish it was plug and play, like just for today, just not have to worry about what's trending, what's not trending. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. How do you think through goals for your practice, and like your KPIs, your like what do you want to achieve with it, what the next thing is, without also, and I'm recognizing this is a common discussion that's happening right now with people of recognizing we're more than just achieving the next big thing. I was just talking to my physical therapist this morning, and he was kind of talking about, oh yeah, I'm always like trying to figure out how to better myself, and when you really break that down, that idea of always bettering ourselves, I get it. And if you look at capitalism, you look at advertising, it's all set up to make us feel inferior, so we buy X product. And so I do think there's a place for not just always doing something. So I want to qualify that. But how do you think through goals, or like, this is airing right before, the end of the year. When you think through next year, how are you thinking through that sort of stuff?
Well, I'm thinking through like, what do I want this year to look like? So if I project myself out and say at the end of 2026, what will I have wanted to accomplish? I'm starting with the end in mind. I'm starting with the end of the year in mind, and then I begin to break that back. Okay, it's what do I need to do? 3 months later, what needs to be happening in 3 months to keep me moving into that space? And so I take that macro goal, and then I break it into chunks. And this is kind of one of the things that I learned going through my dissertation was I'm not always working on my dissertation. There were moments where I scheduled in, all right, I'm just not doing anything.
Yeah.
And so those moments were important. And so it's, again, that piece as well. And I'm a professor too. And so I'm teaching students in their practicum and their field experience right now. And I had a student that asked me, if you're scheduling in self-care, is it just another chore? And I said, absolutely not. It's still self-care, right? You're caring for yourself. But if you don't tell your time where to go, other people will.
Yeah,
and that's the important piece for me.
Yeah. I feel like for most therapists, especially the kind of people that are drawn to owning a practice, we do tend to be overwhelmingly high achievers, people that really want to go after life, see what we can do. And so if it's in our calendar, we view it like we do a client. Like, I'm not going to no-show on myself for this massage or physical therapy because I know I turned away a client to not see them during that time. So that time is still valuable, and that I've chosen that that's good for me. And I also like to kind of protect future Joe through current Joe kind of making decisions for him. And so it's like to block out, here's how much I'm going to work. Or, if I know I tend to lately, for example, be scheduling through lunch and I'm like on a consulting call eating a sandwich. Like, that's not fair to that client. That's also not fair to myself. So even just putting in there, eat lunch, Joe. They have those things that we say are non-negotiables. For me, Tuesday nights is my improv night, and I laugh more than I do most of the week. And I connect with adults. I don't feel like a parent. I don't feel like I have responsibilities at all. I'm just making up stupid characters. And those things make me a better person outside of improv. But even if it didn't, just for the sake of doing improv, it makes me feel joyful in the world.
Yeah. It's the thing that you do that you benefit from. Like, at that point, like you were saying, I'm not a father. I'm not a partner. I am just a person in this improv troupe. Right. And that's important. And a lot of people miss that. Like you said, as entrepreneurs, as practice owners, the weight of the practice is on us, and we're mindful of that. So we're always go, 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 go. Then it's no, slow down for a minute. Mm-hmm. Slow down so that you can reassess how things are going. Like, one of the analogies that I use is like, there's multiple methods of transportation. You can walk, you can get on a bike, you can get on a motorcycle, and all of them, or you can get in a car, and all of them take you at various routes. You can go the same way on a bike as you would walking, but you don't get to take in as much if you're just on a bike versus if you're walking. So like, I love to walk around my neighborhood because I'm typically in my car going from point A to point B. But when I get out of the car and walk around, I get to meet people, I get to see people, and I get to take in the scenery. And so, yeah, it's important to slow down.
Yeah. What kind of guests are you looking for the podcast for next year? Like, what's the vision that you see of, because as we do this, just for the listeners, Brandon has full autonomy for what he wants the show to look like. We don't say, Brandon, you got to like have these guests, you got to do these things. How are you thinking through guests or who you want? And if people meet those things, we can have them reach out to you too. What are you thinking through?
I'm wanting, this is going to be a two-pronged answer, because I'm wanting people that are maybe in that beginning phase of practice. Maybe the thought is just the practice is just a brainchild at this point. And they have some thoughts, they have some ideas about what it should look like and what they want it to look like. And for me, that's important because there are mega practices out there. You talked about Nicole Ball, and we know people that have multiple states, and that's just killing it. And sometimes that can get lost on the person that's right at the beginning stage, and it's like, well, I'm not there, and so I don't feel like I should be listening to this. So I'm wanting a good mix of people that are thinking about doing it and are on a cusp of doing it, have just started. They got a few clinicians, and those that are just really rocking it out. And the other part is I had been exploring how to make this even more interactive for me and in a sense of transparency, and was thinking about chronicling my journey. Now, in the midst of it, if people are, reaching out and we get folks booked, then those can get spliced in. But what I'm really wanting to do is have those moments. Because what I've been doing now is I'll have a series that I would do. And what I want to have is an ongoing conversation with sharing. These are some of the things that I'm doing. Mm. This is how I've been working to get my clinician full. This is, things like that. And what's been working, what's not working, and what I'm learning. Like I was sharing about the website thing, like, oh, okay, so I got to sink some more money into getting my website over here from all these things so that people can appreciate the amount of energy that it takes to run a group practice and to run a practice, period. But also when you start becoming the CEO and the boss, it means that you're taking on another level of responsibility as well. And I want to honor that and let people in and say like, oh, okay, so he's a consultant and he still has these struggles, so that they're not thinking, oh, he's a consultant, he's unapproachable. Like, no, I'm still learning.
Yeah, we all are. Well, Brandon, the last question I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
Let's come back to something that I said before. Be intentional. Know yourself, right? If you don't, building a practice takes energy, takes work, takes time. And if you are needing it to happen overnight, then it might not be the time for you right now. It's not that it can't happen, but being strategic about how you build, how you launch, and how you grow is important. And it's the systems that you have in place that will allow you to have the flexibility to ultimately begin to sell your practice if you want, but you wouldn't want to because you love it.
Mm. So awesome. If any of you want to work with Brandon individually, just head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/apply. You can apply to work with him as a consultant. Also, he's one of our consultants within the Practice Academy. We have 3 different tracks within that. We have the Sustainable Solo Practice track, Group Practice Launch track, and the Sustainable Group Practice track. All of those are one price. You can level up into the next level as soon as you qualify for that. And so you can sign up, get a tour, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/membership. Brandon, tell us the URL for your website. Remind people about the podcast. What else should we tell them about?
So my website is EM Holistic Counseling, holistic with an H, counseling, all one word.com, and Grow Group Practice Podcast. I'm having fun with it. I'm enjoying it.
Well, check out the show. We're going to be playing 5 episodes from that. I think 5. We might do more, depending on the response and depending on how many interviews I can pack in before the end of the year. But thanks so much for being a consultant with us, for helping lead Practice the Practice, and for the show that you're doing, and for being on the show today, Brandon.
Man, thank you. My pleasure, Joe.
You know, it's episodes like this where I get to talk to the consultants that I know are doing awesome work, and but sometimes we're like ships passing in the night, where we'll send a Slack message and we'll check in here and there with a voice memo. But to have time with Brandon, I got to meet Brandon in person for the first time last May at the Group Practice Conference here in Traverse City, Michigan. And then we had a Practice of the Practice staff day where we went hiking at all my favorite places, went to Cherry Republic and got all sorts of cherry things, and just had so much fun together as a team. Went out to dinner. And, there's something about being in person that just changes relationships. And not that you can't have real relationships online, but I want to encourage you to find those people that can be in community with you. They could be local. They could be at some of our events. We have the Group Practice Conference. Tickets just opened up, I think, last week or next week, depending on, we should see when this is airing. I think they're opening next week on Black Friday to Cyber Monday. Those open up over at practiceofthepractice.com/deal. So that event is going to be May 4th and 5th here in Traverse City. It's going to be the largest gathering of group practice owners. We have TED-type talks, so the main stage is only 20 minutes long, and then tons of time throughout an art gallery to have time getting to know other therapists. I hate when you're at a conference and you really don't get to know anyone. So we're hosting that. Headway is our co-host sponsor, and we have a bunch of other sponsors as well. And also, we couldn't do this show without our sponsors. Today's sponsor actually is Headway. If you're looking to get help with your practice with credentialing, billing, payroll, all that admin side of things, it really can take over your week if you're trying to do all of that. I literally was texting a friend of mine who has a counseling practice, and I was asking her some questions about billing, just because as I'm starting Great Lakes Online Counseling, I'm trying to get a sense of just like the market, and she is still filling out forms and mailing them in. I'm like, what? And she said she wants to just keep her hands on it. To me, that's not where I want to spend my time. So if you want to have someone do your billing for you, head on over to join.headway.co/Joe. That's join.headway.co/Joe to get a tour. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music. And this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.